All right, I'm going to show you guys how to use this online web-based picture editing software called Pixlr. So you're going to go to pixlr.com/editor. Right here. Then I want you to go and open a picture, maybe one of the Elements composition photos that we worked on earlier this semester would be great. I'm going to pick a summer vacation photo. And here we go. First thing I want to let you guys know is that, let's hide that. This is a rather large picture. Even cell phones nowadays, camera phones, are taking large photos. And 4,000 by 3,000 pixels isn't enormous, but it might be a little too much for our Chromebooks to handle on a web-based editor. So we're going to shrink this down as our first step. Go to image size. These numbers don't highlight. You can delete that. Replace the big number with 1500 pixels. Make sure that's on pixels. This could be inches. If you make this 1500 inches, your computer might catch on fire. I don't know. Keep this constraint proportion box checked. What this does is that whenever you change this number, it changes the bottom number to be in the same ratio so that you don't get a stretched photo or something, you know, uh, a very severely cropped photo or a weirdly stretched photo. Okay. Now it appeared to shrink the picture and it made the file size smaller, but it's still plenty big enough to fit in your window here. So I'm going to double click the hand tool and that makes it fill the screen again. Now if you can tell, didn't have the straightest horizon here when I was taking this picture. This is something that can be fixed a little simpler on your phone if you still have your picture on your phone. When on your iPhone and the latest software, you can click on the little editing uh, icon when you look at your photo, and it'll automatically adjust the horizon when you click on the crop tool. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to Image. I'm sorry, Edit, Free Transform, and then I'm going to hover over right outside the photo until I get this icon. And then I'm going to straighten the picture out. And you see I'm getting this white space over here because that's the canvas behind the photo. And since I'm moving my actual pixels from my picture kind of off the canvas is what's going on. And so it's not fitting right. But we're going to take care of that in a second. So now that I've done that, I'm going to click on the inside of it. And I'm going to, yes, I want to apply the changes. And I'm going to my crop tool. And when I go to the crop tool, it brings up my rule of thirds grid, which makes it very easy to compose. And if you can tell, I've straightened the horizon. So now the ocean isn't going to fall into Florida on my photo. I'm going to put the horizon in my bottom rule of thirds. And yes, that's a pretty good crop. It's not right on the rule of thirds, but I like this a little better. Okay. Now we're going to go into toning the photo. So I'm going to try to add a little contrast to the clouds over here and maybe lighten the photo up in general a bit. So the adjustments here, the two main things that we're going to do in class are levels and curves. We're going to do these for just about every photo. So I click on levels here. This is the absolute black pixels in the photo. There's not very many of them. Actually, there's none. And over here, the absolute whites. I get a little spike at the top. This right here is called a histogram, by the way. I can kind of look around. I can tell you that this spot right here is where my absolute whites are. This is a cloud, and it's being hit so hard by the sun, and it's so much brighter than the rest of the photo that because I exposed for this part, there's no information in this cloud anymore. And if I bring that in, then I'm going to make more and more of my picture what we call blown out without any detail. So I don't need to bring that in. My blacks, however, I want to bring in and make sure I have some absolute blacks in my photo. That gives it a good contrast. And then I'm going to grab the middle here and lighten up my midtones. And then I'm going to click OK. I actually prefer to use curves to do this kind of thing. I'm going to put my curves window over here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to click here and make a dot. You see that dot right here? And then you can lighten and darken your photo, just the middle of it, using that. So this is the way I prefer to adjust midtones, but I just adjusted them, so I'm not going to mess with that. If you drop a dot in the middle of that square and a dot in the middle of that square, you can add some contrast by giving it a tiny bit of an S-curve. So to do contrast this way, you need a dot lowering here in the middle, and then a dot up high here at the end, and just give it a little bit of a curve. This is also a good place to, if you're shooting inside and your color isn't quite right, you could find something that's a pretty neutral gray. Click that. See, if I wanted to make this cloud here an absolute gray, it would do that. And this is a good time to talk to you about the history. So I'm going to cancel that. And then Control M will get me back in there, actually. Or not. So we're adding a little bit of blacks there. Tiny bit of white. All right, so if I wanted to undo that, I could just go right back up to levels. And as long as you don't start working on something else, you can go through your history here and undo and redo things. Now, this is all we're going to do to this picture for right now. We'll learn how to do more stuff with Pixlr later, but for this part of the assignment, you're just about done. We're just going to save this. File, save, And I want these named the name of the assignment, which will make it easier for me to grade. So this is Intro Pixlr. I'm going to make you do an underscore with your initials. I'm screencasting here. So after I rename it, I'm going to put a digit in the back so that it doesn't override another picture I have. And then I click OK. And it saves it right there.